All right, here we go. Welcome to edition number 4 here of hometownhockey.ca. Kind of a special show tonight. You'll remember that a couple shows ago we interviewed Darren Colbourne from the Cornwall Royals. And through that process, we were fortunate enough to make a connection to a former teammate in Paul Lalande. And then we ended up finding Mrs. Alexander, who was the lady that hosted most of these crazy characters. And then through that, we came up with this idea that we would try to get 4 or 5 or 6 guys together to almost sit around, have a couple pints, and tell some stories about our time with Mrs. Alexander in Cornwall. And I think some of these guys probably haven't seen each other in 20 years. I'm just going to do a quick interview or introduction of the guys in the room. Darren Colbourne, who was our guest earlier, played 164 games with the Royals, 421 in the East Coast League, 2 AHL games. He's a member of the East Coast Hockey Hall of Fame. We've also got Tom Nemeth, who played 223 games with the Cornwall Royals, 473 East Coast League games, and he's also a member of the ECHL Hockey Hall of Fame. Joining us as well is Ryan VandenBussche, 110 games with the Cornwall Royals, 30 games with the Newmarket Royals. Played a total of 310 NHL games, 291 AHL games, combined total of 2,332 penalty minutes in all 3 leagues. We've also got Paul Lalande, 58 games with the Cornwall Royals. He's now a respected police officer with the Ottawa Police Service, following some time with the OPP. And last but certainly not least, we have Rob Dykeman with us. And Rob would have played 76 games with the Cornwall Royals and 23 games with Newmarket, and finished up his career with the Ottawa 67s. And certainly the most important guest of honor this evening is Mrs. Alexander, who would have, in her time,
Darren.
in the early 80s, would have hosted, I think, 23 Royal players. So thank you, Mrs. A, for agreeing to do this. I think the only story I can remember telling is Darren had us out late one night, and I think I ended up sleeping in Paul's bed, and in the morning you woke us all up and fed us all breakfast, and we were all treated like we were meant to be there, even though we were some strange face. So I'm going to just kind of open up the floor and let you guys have at it. And again, thank you everybody for joining us.
That was Fred Fletch, actually, that counted the 23 people. He once did an interview with me for Hockey News way, how many years back, and we won't count. And he said, as we counted people up, some of them only stayed for a short while before they were sent back to their juniors or whatever. But that's where he came up with the 23. Most of the time we had 4 of you in the house when we're in Montreal Road. We had 4 guys there.
Yeah, we had 7 at one time.
At one time when it was not playoffs, training camp, we had 7. Tom Nemeth slept on a mattress on the floor because he was number 7.
That's because we had Gordell. He showed up for 2 days and then he stayed in his
Oh, it was a great time, guys, and I loved having you all. I told you off now and again, but I did really love having you all. And Catherine, of course.
Longest with you, Mrs. A?
I'm sorry?
Who stayed the longest with you?
Darren was one of the longest, I think, wasn't he?
I think so, because I showed up. You saved my life. You and Catherine saved my life, because I was at one place when I first got there, and I wasn't. And you guys can remember it for sure. But yeah.
Oh, hi, Rob.
Hi, Mrs. A. Can you guys hear me?
There he is.
Yeah, you know.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. That's great.
Thank God for my wife, or I wouldn't have gotten on. Sorry, guys, for interrupting.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
Darren.
No. I got there, and I think it was Derek Middleton who was with you at the time, and I said to Derek, and I think it was, and he said,
Derek, yes.
Yeah. You're not happy where you are you? I said, no. He said, well, go tell Orville and see what we can do. And I think I might have gone to your place. I might have been number 5. And something happened over the next day or so, because I don't know if I was going to be permanent at your place. I think I was just a transplant for the time. And then I think someone got moved, and I was like, thank God I could stay here. And that was the spring of the fall of 87. And I stayed right through till I finished. So that was almost 3 years. So
yeah.
And there was never any question of where I would go coming back. It was some guys thought that they would, move out every now and then, but when I came back, I knew I was going to Montreal Road. 1210, right? 1210. I'll always remember that.
But you came with Scott.
Yeah, and I can't remember how Scott and I ended up.
Well, I'll tell you how they ended up, and I don't know where the story came from. But when Dunk, who was the guy that used to work with for the billets, he came into my house one day and he said, "We've got these two guys and they really don't want to be where they are.
That's right.
But they're both from the East Coast and they want to stay together." And that was his story.
Yeah.
So the two of you came.
Yeah. No, well, we lived together at the time. And again, I think that was the situation. But it was, like I said, you saved us big time because we just felt like we were more at home. And but we, again, we grew into it pretty quick. And with 2-3 other roommates, that's the joy of it. It's like you wake up on the road every morning. It's everybody, you see what everybody went through the night before, because not everybody, we didn't all go do things together, but we'd all get up in the morning and have tea the right way and just look and say, "What were you doing last night?" Or "What were you doing last night?" Or, "Oh, I was out in the Trans Am. Where were you?"
Yeah, my Trans Am got used a little bit.
Yeah. I remember
Mostly for dates, I think.
Yeah. I remember you asking if you could take Catherine's Trans Am to pick your girlfriend up in Montreal Airport.
I got there in record time.
Yeah, and I probably let you take it as well.
You did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And who was there at the time that you asked if you could have a party in the basement?
Oh,
that was when I don't know who was there, because John Lovell at that time was the coach.
I wasn't there then.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we had 3 parties a week in the basement, Mrs. A. What are you talking about?
You just didn't know about them.
Yeah. The frat house.
No, that was across the road.
That was the river.
That kid corrupted me.
Oh yeah, whatever.
I was a naive little farm boy coming out.
No.
Eye opener.
Were you guys around when we had Benji, the little old dog?
Yep.
Yeah. And Mike Ware used to go downtown, and Benji thought Mike Ware was the best thing since sliced bread. So poor Benji would wander down after him, go downtown. I remember him telling us the story one day. He sat outside the hairdressers while Mike went in and had his hair cut, and came back out, and they walked down to the arena, and he said, "I showed him the penalty box where I spend most of my time." And then he said, he went to the secretary and he said, "Can you give us a ride home? The dog's tired."
For those of you guys that don't know Mike Ware was 6'5" and about 230 pounds, the toughest player.
Oh, he was a great guy.
Yeah.
Was there only you, Darren, that stayed with Mike?
I think so. Yes. Yeah.
All the other guys were there?
I'm the oldest one. Yeah. So Mike would have been my first year would have been his last year.
Yes, I once remember with Mike Ware, I had to go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. There'd been a snowstorm. Drove the car out and it went sideways instead of straight. And I went upstairs and said, Mike, my car's stuck. Just a minute. Puts gloves on. He still had his jammies and he's pulled his boots on. Walks over to the car. Okay, start her up. And he just heaved, put his weight behind the back of the car.
Yeah.
It just went straight. It was, yeah. Okay, have a good day. I went back to bed.
Well, I just remember coming home after games and him sitting at the table and Mrs. A saying, "Michael, what have you got done now?" And his knuckles would just be bare bone. And the poor guy, Mrs. A, would come over, "Let me see them. Let me see them." And she'd haul the crap that was off his hands. And she'd say, "Oh, my God, you've got to stop fighting. What else am I going to do?"
I remember him coming home one time with stitches in them, and he says, "I don't want these stitches in anymore." And he bit them until they took his stitches out and pulled them out with his teeth.
Oh, yeah.
I remember Ryan going to training camp. You remember that? And then Owen Nolan hit you. Do you remember that? Got into a fight with Owen
At training camp.
at training camp, and between you, Mike Ware, and Owen, who were probably about the three. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Three
Oh,
best ones.
I would think so.
But but you got hit by Nolan. Ended up on the ice. Went to hospital. Your dad was here. Remember?
I took you there. You had a concussion.
Oh, I got hit by Rod Paz. I hit Owen Nolan, knocked him out for 3 months. He missed
Oh, you got the wrong way around.
and I got knocked out by Rod Pasma. I got
Oh,
a
yeah.
military pass, and I looked behind me to get it, and I just all of a sudden. And I remember, well, Dykeman reminds me of this every once in a while. When I came back to the house, we're sitting around a table, and I kept on repeating myself every like 30 seconds. I'd ask what happened. And as you'd say,
Who
like,
hit me?
like 5 minutes later, that's the same question. So back then, you got on the ice the next day. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
We're sitting on that porch, Bushy, drinking beers, watching the cars drive by on Montreal, and you asking the same question 9 times in an hour.
Terrible.
After a while, I started changing the answer just to see if you'd pick up on it.
Yeah. It was awful. But and then Mrs. Day and Catherine, you guys were like, I remember you guys giving me a big bucket of water with salt water and then keep my knuckles in there because I always had cuts on my hands.
Harden your hands up.
Yeah.
I remember you sitting out on the front of Montreal Road, Rob, with the damn snake around your neck and just about stopped the traffic on Montreal Road because they all stopped to look at you with this snake draped around your neck.
I think they were looking at me, Mrs. A, not the
How could I get that wrong?
I was saying before, the highlight of the week was when the girls used to come with the mice in the little box. And that was the price of admission.
Yeah.
A mouse. Yeah.
Well, I was only making $30 a week. I had to improvise and do something to get some food for them. I had to put meat in the cage.
So, Mrs. A, you guys let a snake in your house?
Yeah.
We had 2 at one time.
Oh, no way.
3 or 4 if you count some of the boys that live there.
His father or grandfather had stripped out an old cabinet TV, and that was the snake's home. And they had regular visitors to come and see the snake. And then he came home after Christmas one day and said, Mrs. A, guess what I got for Christmas? A baby snake. So he had 2 there for a while.
Yeah. That baby snake was a Burmese python. It grew about 1 year.
Yeah.
And it what? How long was it?
Well, it grew about 8 feet. I got rid of it when it got about 15 feet.
Wow.
We had an encounter in the basement where it attacked me and we rolled around. So I thought it's time to get rid of this one. Long story.
Like it outgrew the aquarium it was in.
No, well, I went in and the girlfriend at the time had a rabbit and I was playing with the rabbit like 10 hours earlier and I went home to pull it out. And I thought my hand was the rabbit, so I grabbed my hand. And then it started wrapping me up, and then we had a big brawl. Bushy would have been proud. And that went on for 15 minutes of rolling around on the carpet. And finally it let go, and I thought, well, it's time to sell this one. He's getting a little violent.
Where do you sell a 15-foot python?
Where do you
sell
what?
it to? I said, who do you sell a 15-foot python to?
Some nut bar in Toronto. Yeah, not hard.
Those were the days. Missed them all for the longest time.
No, they were fantastic days.
Yes, they just really were fantastic days.
I think Bushy still holds the record for most grilled cheese eaten at lunchtime.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, yeah.
I remember from my sister from Australia visiting us at the time, and you all guys came home for lunch, and we're making grilled cheese like you wouldn't believe. And she said, how many more grilled cheese can these guys eat? And I forget what your record was, Ryan.
12, wasn't it?
It was 10.
10.
I remember that. I don't know how you guys dealt with it. 4 guys living in your house, eating like savages. Wake up every morning. You got your breakfast set out for you. You got your bowl set out. You made it so easy for us. So what a nice transition that was, going from, your regular life to a new home. And And then you go to school and you go to the rink from 4 to 6 and you come home, same thing. You got your supper all set out for you. It was beautiful. You guys were amazing.
Cheeseburger night.
I remember Darren used to come in through the back door from evening, and he came in about 6 o'clock, and he always used to lift all the pans to see what was cooking in there.
Well,
What have we got tonight then, Mrs. A?
the best thing about getting up in the morning was, like, the guys got up at different times, and she would get up and make whatever they wanted at different times. That's what blew me away. It wasn't like the army. Talk about spoiled. It was like, you get up, oh, there comes Mike. We're going to make something for him. And there comes Frenchie. We'll get something for him. Stop an hour later. So, but that's the way it was. It was just, when do you stop cooking for the?
And then we got our monthly treat when Mrs. A and Catherine took us to the Blue Anchor for fish and chips.
That's right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
And
That
10
was the treat of the
down at
month.
Freddy's.
And the Freddy's wing
Or
night.
Freddy's.
Freddy's
night.
wing night. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I
right.
forgot
You
about
find
that.
it outside.
We were the big table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many wings do you want? 300.
Yeah. All I can remember, Catherine, is you sweating your ass off eating your wings, because we were all like mild guys. Catherine would be sitting there. She'd have a towel around her neck. She was.
Get the spicy ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember that we were talking about the place we used to go? Well, we took you once in
Down in
across
the-
the States,
It
Chase Mills.
It was your 18th birthday, was it, Darren?
No, 21st. It was going to be his 21st.
The next day.
Yeah. And because it was the States, they wouldn't allow you to have a drink, and I kept buying them and trying to sneak you one, and that little old lady in the hat came by. Nope, you can't have it.
Holy shit.
Oh, 21. Here, you can go shoot somebody, but you can't have a beer.
Yeah, really.
Colby, I was talking to Tom Racine a while ago, and do you remember the time they took us over there as a team for the Christmas party? I think it was at Dundee.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes,
As far as I
yes,
know,
yes.
yeah.
Do you remember getting on the bus before Orville got on the bus?
I don't
You
remember.
tell
That
that
was the
story.
guys.
That would be the guys. That wouldn't be us.
He's asking Darren.
What happened?
Something with his hat. Something
Oh.
important in his fedora.
Oh my
Remember that?
God. Oh, I can't remember that. God only knows though.
Yeah. So
Must have been a
Orville
good
got
Christmas
the door
party.
on the bus, and we went into this bar. I guess Dundee. Half of it's in Ontario, and half of it's in the U.S. If I can remember.
That's right.
And the party wrapped up, and all the guys got back on the bus. Orville was the last guy to get on the bus, and I don't know who grabbed his hat, but we had poured some beer in Orville's fedora. And he went to. He just blew a gasket all the way home. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, you didn't mess with Orville's hat.
Oh no, that was his crown, wasn't a hat.
Yeah.
Christ. He used to wear that behind the bench. Those were the days. The only thing he was missing was a cigar,
Yeah.
like old time
Yeah.
hockey.
He was what you call an old-time
I was
coach.
singing the Two Irishmen and a Newfie song on the way over those trips too.
That's right. Oh fuck! You remember that stupid tape? All that Simonized shit. The still just a Newfie in a Calgary hat and all that shit.
Oh yeah, those were the days, man.
Oh
Like I said,
man, I can't believe you guys sat through that. Let alone just letting you put it on.
But the
But they-
spud from in the Great Red Mud, whatever.
But they
it
knew
was,
all the
that.
words. And by the end, by the time the year was over,
I'm saying
everybody
you
knew
got
the
us them
words.
all.
Yeah.
But
Tommy
Chris,
was great.
I was lucky because when I went to Cornwall, I was staying with Tabarachi's billet for training camp. And when Tabby came back from Pittsburgh, he didn't want to be with he didn't want any other players living with him. So I got the boot, and I was lucky to go to Mrs. A's. So that's how I ended up there. Because when Tabby came back, he would have none of that. He was like, I'm solo here, buddy. And I've been in the house for 3 years.
A couple of guys like that, they would only stay where there was one.
And so I was fortunate to end up there. And then room with Colby.
Yeah.
Oh, you were lucky.
Scott must have been traded or something then, was he,
No,
Darren?
he just went home, I think.
Scott?
Yeah.
Was he traded?
Yeah,
or?
Scott. Remember, Scott fell in love with the game. I think he just he actually was playing really well, and he just decided, that's enough. I don't want to do this anymore. And remember, because all he wanted was money, and he went and got a job at Lasco Steel, and he bought an Audi, and that's all he worried
Yes, I
about.
remember. All he wanted to do was buy an Audi. Yeah.
Yeah, that was his
Audi and
big
a
dream, to
watch.
buy an Audi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a good player, tough, and just.
Oh my Lord, he could skate like the wind.
Yeah, but fell in love with the game, and what a super guy. Never said boo to anyone, but great player.
Yes, he was a nice guy.
He just didn't like it. He had a girlfriend in Oshawa as well.
Yes, right. That's where he went to live. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I remember you, Tom Nemeth, being sat at my dinner table one night, and he kept saying, "I've got this pain. I've got this pain." Yeah. And at the end, you ended up in the hospital with appendicitis. And you sat at home for 6 weeks, just really enjoying life, because they wouldn't let you back on the ice.
Well, no, it was it was on I remember that day like it was yesterday. It was a Saturday. We had practice in the morning, and came home. We had a little lunch, so we're laying downstairs then, and then I got a pain. I'm like, I don't feel well, and all day long it just got worse. I went up to lay in bed, and you and Kathy came up around, I don't know, 4 or 5 in the afternoon. I was crawling to the bathroom. In so much pain, and then that's when you took me to the hospital. Yeah.
Well, and the guy, I can't remember his last name, Dean from Sudbury. He was staying at the same time.
Dean Pella.
That was right at the end.
That was the last name. And his dad was visiting. Yeah, his dad was visiting at the time, and he and I put you in the car to take you to the hospital. I remember that.
Nice I had a couple of good little injuries. The one when. I'll never forget it too. Paul will remember this because Guy Lafleur's returned to the Forum back in the day, and we had a game up in Ottawa, and it was Brian. I think Brian Marchment. No, it wasn't him because he was in Belleville. One of the defensemen hit me and gave me a 3rd-degree Charlie horse.
Ow.
And I ended up having a bruise from the top of my head to the tip of my toe for about 4 months. That was not fun.
No. Oh, we had a few of you with injuries. I remember Jeff Reed coming home from a game one night, and Eric Lindros had put his stick through his cheek.
Yep.
Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was a mess he was for a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was I remember right in the middle of the ice, and Jeff did get him back eventually. I forget what happened, but I remember Jeff did get him back at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked to Jeff the other day, but I'm sorry he didn't come on here tonight, but we did have a nice chat with him. He's still in Guelph, so
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I remember Jeff Reed being my roommate, and we had this colored carpet in between our beds. And I think Dykeman and Jeff had this great idea because, the dog's name, I can't remember his name again. Benji must have pooped somewhere, and so Dykes and Reeder decided to take this poop and kind of tangle it in with the carpet beside my bed before I went to bed. So I ended up stepping in it right before.
That is a true story.
Goddamn.
Reeder and I would lay in bed and wait for the Jesus Christ. That's how we knew it actually worked. The plan was successful. Bushy stepping in poop.
Tons of pranks. I love it.
Hey, that was before we knew you were a tough guy, though, in all fairness.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's probably not a good idea.
The prank stopped when we realized Bushy was a killer.
Catherine, do you remember Ron Jolly and Jeff Murray and probably Jason Hannigan was in on that show as well, where they took your car to Rigo, and on the way home they broke down on the 401, and it had to be, I don't know, maybe 3 in the morning, and this is pre-cell phone. The phone rings on Montreal Road at probably 3 in the morning, the landline. Frenchie, you need to get in your car and come and pick us up. We're on the 401 near Rigo. You need to push Catherine's car back and roll the odometer back so it looks like we never took it. And this is like February and it's minus 25 out. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere, guys. Screw it.
Oh my Lord, you guys.
Yeah, him and Jeff.
You and Jeff got into some scrapes. The last time I saw another guy that was there. Oh, I was trying to think who was. You just said his name, Jason Hannigan. Do you remember making him his Christmas present with was this red and black satin dressing gown. And I put his name across the back in red.
Yeah, what was his nickname?
Honey
Because
Boy.
his dad used to be an all-in wrestler.
Honey Boy.
Yeah.
It was what?
It was a Hurricane Hannigan, they called him, but it was,
That's what they
his
called
father
him.
was Honey Boy.
Yeah. Oh, wow, Honey Boy. Yeah.
And I remember making Jason Hannigan that for his Christmas
Leave
gift.
it across
Put
the
his
shoulder.
name right across the back across his shoulders.
Well, can you remember bringing us to Guys and Dolls?
Oh,
Remember
yes.
brought the whole friggin' crew of us to Guys and Dolls. It was the most sophisticated the crowd had ever been when Mrs. A and Catherine brought us to the show, and then brought us backstage to meet all the actors. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm never sure how I had the time to look after all you guys and still do costumes
I
for the
know.
big show.
Yeah, it was a
Work
great
in the
time.
summer.
It was great in Halloween though.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. You used to be able to go in the dressing room and get dressed up for
Yeah.
Halloween.
I went out. I can remember my wife now. She was up there, and she went out as Charlie Chaplin, and I was the Pope.
Yeah. Yeah. A few nuns' costumes came out of
Yeah,
that
I
too.
remember a few nuns' costumes coming out of that.
Yeah.
We used to wear all those hats from Upper Canada Village. I remember after we knocked Ottawa out in the semis,
Yeah.
and we grabbed all of Mrs. A's Upper Canada Village hats and sat on the front lawn on Montreal Road in Lefebvre, and we're drinking beer all day long. Paul Kane and Tommy was there and all those guys, and we must have started in the morning and went right till night, and then probably ended up at like Moviola's or one of those bars later.
Yeah.
Moviolas, yeah.
But we had some good props.
Oh yeah.
We had a good party, but I mean, the place never got wrecked.
No.
We had one party there. Do you remember? Oh, no, we asked this when Vern was there.
When Vern-
Anyway, when we first moved into Montreal Road, I think it was the end of the first season, and they said, "Can we have a party?" And we were going away for the weekend.
We had a wedding or something.
Yeah. Anyway, can we have a party? Sure. But of course, Mom laid down you will not, thou wilt not, and there'll be no, don't pass these stairs, because if you go upstairs, I'll know about it, that kind of thing. Anyway, and Frenchie was, not Frenchie, Bird Chief.
They used to call
Vern
him
Ray.
Chief. He was a
Do you remember Chief?
Yeah. Vern Ray.
Vern Ray.
Vern Ray.
Vern Ray.
Yeah. Anyway, don't worry, Mrs. A, I'll stop him. And apparently he stood at the doors, downstairs.
the only place you can go.
The guys even vacuumed,
Yeah.
cleared all the beer bottles out, vacuumed, and the whole thing.
We could have used him for Ilpo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember that time he put his fist through the basement roof doing a finish dance at a party? He actually came and paid for the repair, though. I still talk to him all the time. He's doing
Do you?
good. Yeah.
Is he back in Europe?
He's been in Germany probably the last 18 years playing and coaching, and right now he's sitting in Finland. So we still do a lot of hunting together and fishing, probably every other year.
Oh,
So, yeah, he's a beauty.
it's nice to stay in touch. I mean, have any of you guys stayed in touch with
Bushy and I
like that?
see each other regularly. I was with Capper on the weekend. He said to say hi to you guys because I told him I was going on this with you guys.
Oh,
You
yeah.
mean Sean Caprice?
Yeah.
Yeah, he married a girl from Ingleside, didn't they?
Yeah, that was short-lived. They're divorced.
Oh, my. Oh, dear.
Yeah, all good, though. All good.
Yeah.
Is his mum still there rigging the riot act?
Oh, sorry to say, Capper's mom passed away.
Did
Oh,
she?
did she?
Yeah,
She was
mom
she
and
was a
dad.
tough Irish lady.
Yeah.
I remember her bringing him into me coming into training camp when who did he come with? Jeff Reed, and
Yeah.
I forget who else he came with. Anyway, the parents came to inspect the house before they would let the boys stay there, and Sean Caprice's mother was there. He doesn't eat this, and he doesn't eat that, and he doesn't eat salad, and he doesn't eat something else. So all the time I would give you guys salad. Well, he couldn't have it because he just didn't eat it. And then he was traded to Kingston. And I don't know how I found out. Maybe it was his mother that told me, but she said the first thing that he was served at his new billet in Kingston was a Caesar salad. And he never stopped eating it after that. He just loved it.
So much for mother knowing best.
Yeah, he was quite the character, wasn't he?
Oh, no doubt. Still is.
So were Rob and Ryan the last two for the last year of the Royals? Were you guys in the last year? Was it last year?
Yes.
And then you went to Newmarket?
Yes, you went to.
That was Newmarket. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you guys?
But you went to Ottawa, Rob, in the meantime.
What's
After.
that?
You went to Newmarket first and then Ottawa.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think when Cornwall left when Royals left Cornwall, I think there was only Reader and I living at the house.
Yes, there was. Yes,
It
it
was
was
just
the two of
Reader
you.
and I.
Here that last year.
And then we went to Newmarket. That sucked. Thank God I got traded out to Ottawa.
We all got traded.
Yeah, we all got traded.
Yeah, because it was like, I was going to ask you that, because he said you played 23 games or something with Newmarket, and Ryan, you played 20 something. Yeah, 30, whatever. So you didn't last even, half a season.
Yeah.
Before you were traded.
The old Cornwall boy. They separated us all. I don't know why.
I think that was the brainchild of the infamous Willie Wise.
Hey.
God, he was infamous for sure.
Yeah.
You know where he is now.
Yeah.
FBI's most wanted.
He's in jail in Los Angeles or San Francisco or somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But looking back, it all makes sense. But at the time, you're oblivious to it, Whatever.
That's
Were you there, Darren, when all the politics went on with the club?
No. It was, at that point, it was still Willie had just come on board, so he had just reared his face because Jimmy Laren, right? He was the one that he was in charge. And Jim was just stepping away that year, and Willie was just coming on board, and that's when Orville started separating away too. So I think when Jimmy left, I think that's when Orville left. Brent took over for a little bit. And after that, I think they brought in Crawford, didn't they, the next year?
Yes, he came in as the coach, yes. And then when he left, he said to the other guys, don't let him own the business. Well, too damn late. He just went through all the owners and bought out their shares and eventually had them all so he could trade you.
Yeah.
You trade the team. Yeah.
No, I saw it.
He moved to the Sting.
He was not popular in Cornwall for a long time.
They weren't in
You went in
Newmarket very long.
No. So Sarnia now is the Cornwall Royals, right?
The original Royals.
Oh, is it really?
Because it was Barrie for a while, right?
So what's ironic about Sarnia, Colby, is when I got hired by the OPP in 2005, I went to Sarnia. And I started playing in a men's beer league with, do you remember Greg Walters?
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, you remember him, Ryan?
He's coaching.
My roommate in St. John's, Newfoundland.
Yeah, so he was the assistant coach for the Sting, and I was working there with the OPP, and he was like, you know what, man, we have all the old Royals memorabilia, the jerseys, the socks, the pants, it all went to Sarnia, and they were using that as practice stuff. So
no way.
Chris, you should have been in on that.
Yeah, like, can you grab me a jersey and some old socks just to keep as souvenirs, right? So it was good to know Greg back then.
Yeah.
Somebody actually called me, wanted to sell me my game jersey for like $250.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I was like, buddy, like, I got no money. Whatever. I've got one jersey. I don't need the home jersey. Piss off. But looking back, I was like, I probably should have grabbed it. But somebody did call me on I don't know how or what, but yeah, they're selling off all that old, all the old jerseys. Bushy, I think you got contacted.
Yeah, I got my jerseys for sure.
You got both?
Yeah, home and away.
Oh, all right. I cheaped out.
So are these the Royals ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Original. Yep.
So that was Willie making money?
Probably. That was after Willie, I think. That was Sarnia. That was
that was after. Yeah.
Who was our trainer then, Bush? What was his name? Big guy, heavy set.
No, Odie was.
Odie was here. Odie was Cornwall, yes.
Super nice guy. He was Kilray's nephew in Ottawa. What was his name? Great. He always ate potato spuds. That's it. He always ate
Gord.
Gord.
Yeah.
I feel like
Great his last name.
yeah.
Tom, were you there with him? Were you there when
Was I?
that trainer was there?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have Bob Clark too as a trainer. Remember him?
Bob Clark. Oh my. What
Good
a
first year.
That guy almost burned my knee off.
oh, Capper used to torment Bob Clark.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
He'd put that machine on your knee, the ultrasound machine, and you're not supposed to stop on those things, and he would get distracted and he would just hold it on your knee and it would burn a hole through it.
We were just telling Chris a while ago, we have the banner for the 1980 Memorial Cup.
Oh, very nice.
Really?
It has had every signature from all the players.
My bad.
Well, it was homemade. It was ours. We made it. And all the boys all signed it, and the coach. And at that time, it was Bob Kilger that was the coach, if you remember. Yeah. Oh, look, there you go. Ryan's being fed.
Yeah, this is my wife, Lisa.
She's much better half.
My wife better.
Yeah, so we still have this banner from all that time ago, 1980, with all the signatures on there. There's some old stories on there, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
You didn't have kids then, did you?
No, Catherine, but Catherine was the big fan.
Oh, okay.
And it was then a couple of years after that that she persuaded me to start billeting boys. That was before we had that big house on Montreal Road. So yeah.
Colby, I found an old picture on my phone from back in the day. Well, I took it. I used to wear your jacket all the time. This is 1988. Yeah. I got tuned up by John Nelson in the playoffs. I don't know if you can.
I remember that.
Oh, there you go.
I remember that.
Oh, look at that jacket.
Look at the black eye.
Yeah.
Remember that coat?
I do.
Oh, the black eye. Yeah, look.
Look at the face on you. Holy shit. Yeah, I remember those coats.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another thing we did. We sold those for the Royals. We got all these things printed and got them sold. Well, I tell a lie. Matthew Snyder's father got them printed in Montreal Road. And, and then we sold them all to the fans and everybody. Yeah.
Frenchie and Tom, did you guys go? You guys went to St. John's, right? For our training camp in '88 or '89?
Gosh, yeah, those trips were amazing.
Oh yeah.
Went to where?
First time I'd ever been on a plane.
Yeah. So for those guys, when we drafted Slaney in the first round, he was our Cornwall's first rounder. Orville got in contact, and somehow the Cornwall Royals ended up going to St. John's, Newfoundland. I'm from Newfoundland, so it was pretty cool. But we ended up taking the whole team to St. John's to play against a group of all-stars from this area. And we got to introduce the boys to George Street and all that kind of stuff. As Bushy would certainly know, he's been indoctrinated. And apparently Catherine and Mrs. A were here a couple of years ago, and they got indoctrinated as well. So
that's right.
But I'll never forget that we knew that Robbie Ray was not going to end up playing with us in that season because he was going to play pro. But the bugger ended up coming to Newfoundland anyway. I don't know how he managed to weasel in on that trip, but he just went crazy down on George Street. And I can't remember. We lost him a couple of times. And I think he knew that he didn't have to play with us that year. So he was kind of like,
he didn't give a shit.
He did not give a shit. Yeah. So anyway, that was my memory of losing Robbie Ray on George Street for a day and just can't even remember what happened to him. But that was pretty cool because Slaney got to go back to St. John's where he was from. And I think all you guys played with Slaney, did you not? Yeah. So again, we went back there.
Well, you knew that he was stolen by Cornwall from, who got a draft in front of them or behind them? Generals.
Yeah,
Oshawa Generals. They
couldn't
had
have
him
stolen
lined
from
up.
a better. Yeah, they couldn't have
They
stolen
had
from a
him
better
lined
team.
up, and Cornwall got the pick in front of him. And took him, and the Oshawa Generals were absolutely beside themselves.
So here's my question: where was Owen Nolan taken? Second round?
Sorry?
Where was Nolan
He
taken?
was second round.
He was a second round.
He was a first.
I was fourth in that draft. Yeah.
Who
Okay.
went third?
No, I went second round. I'm positive.
Who said there were both?
Who was third?
I don't recall that.
Yeah, I can't remember that either.
Oh, it
What's
might have been
kind
the
of funny
goalie.
is-
Was it Daryl Paquette, the goalie?
Yes.
Exactly, that's who it was.
Daryl
Yeah.
Paquette.
Yeah. I looked at this the other day.
Owen, I'm obviously, I'm 2 years older than him. So you go to, I've never heard of the kid until the draft. You go to a training camp, found out we were actually going to the same high school the same year we were drafted.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, I've never heard, because he was playing like Bantam hockey at the time. I was in junior B. So it was like, never heard of the guy. And, obviously he turned out to be who he was. So,
Yeah, he wasn't bad.
no, not bad. Yeah, but it was just weird that, to be drafted like that. Like I said, we
Yeah.
were in the same halls in high school the year before and never knew neither of us knew each other. So
Yeah.
Who played with Jason Cerrone?
Yeah.
I did
That was
too.
me. That was my second.
I remember him saying, you were talking about Ron earlier. I remember him looking up at Ron, because he had to look up at Ron,
Who
saying, if only I had your size and my hands, he says. Because Ron could skate.
Yeah.
problem is he didn't know what to do with the puck when he, got it close to his
Well,
butt.
no, the biggest problem was his mother wasn't there to tie his skates, which apparently happened until he came to be drafted to Cornwall. He never tied his own skates. She did them for him all the time.
Poor Ron.
Poor Ron.
Yeah.
Poor Ron. I think she wiped his bum too, because I can remember one night I woke up.
He did.
Don't say it, Colby. I know it's one.
Because remember I came and got you.
I remember, well, Mom probably knows the story better. He comes downstairs one day, just about had an ice pack on his family jewels. Mrs. A, you gotta take me to Doc Peachy. I got problems. I think he had crotch rot or something. I don't know. Anyway.
He was too damn lazy to clean himself, I think.
Well, the story I was told to Chris last. I hope Ron doesn't ever sees this because he'll kill me. It was after a night of, I don't know what we were doing. Anyway, I ended up in the bedroom that Ron was in. And I wake up like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I look over and Ron is butt naked in the bed next to me. And he's got crap wiped all the way up to his shoulder blades. And he must have went to the bathroom at some point during the night and just totally got lost. So I got of course I couldn't let this die. I went to the next room and got all the boys. I said, boys, you got to come see this. Got to come see this.
I remember that.
Good. It's a good thing it's not the social media times, because it would have been ugly. Anyway, we got him up and got him bathed. So it was,
Yeah, in the one bathroom. Now you guys managed. Mind you, it's a good job you weren't four girls instead of 4 boys, because
Yeah, we only
bathroom.
ever had one bathroom for you all guys.
But they showered at the rink often.
Yeah,
so.
most of the time.
most of the time, yeah.
Most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when you used to go home to Newfoundland, Darren, you always had to bring Orville some lobster back.
No, Bruce.
Oh, and I brought it back. Yeah, it was in canned meat, and I brought it back. He gave me $100, I think it was, and I brought back 4 tins. He goes, "Fuck, that's expensive." I said, "Well, Orville, it's canned. It's not, it's not fresh lobster. Anyway, he goes, "I can't give you any more money. That's all I can give you." But anyway, yeah, it was really expensive. I didn't think I never ate a whole lot of lobster, so I went to the store and bought as much lobster I could, and it was 4 tins. That was it. That's all they would. But I thought down at the Glendale down there, he loved his rolls, right? His lobster rolls and his cod fish rolls.
Yeah.
That's why he couldn't coach, because he had gout all the freaking time. Orville used to stand on the boards, and poor old Edgar Miron, how old would Edgar have been when he coached us?
Oh, he'd be in his 80s. Maybe.
He was getting in. He was getting up there.
Later.
Yeah.
All I can remember is Edgar out on the ice running practice, and something would happen, and he'd go, and Edgar in his little voice, "Come on, guys, come on, seriously, guys, come on." we had a bunch of assholes. Like we had some real cats there.
And when the circus was in town at the complex, we would walk across to the old Water Street in our gear, and Orville would run the practice from the bleachers.
Yeah.
You remember that?
You couldn't get the smell of elephants out of the complex for a while.
Rob, you would have liked that. There were snakes all over the dressing room.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I remember when WWF came to the was it the Civic Center? Is that what?
Yeah, Civic Complex. Yeah.
The Civics Complex. I remember Jake the Snake Roberts was there or something. I don't know, but yeah, it was crazy.
But going back to having practices elsewhere, I remember Big Ron coming home one day and saying, "Mrs. A, they're going to make us practice down at the Salmon River. I don't know how we're going to practice on the Salmon River." Little did they know Salmon River, what did he know? Salmon River was the name of a place over in New York State. And they had an ice rink, but he thought he was going to skate on the river or run. Didn't know any better.
Well, the first time it snowed, we make you guys go out and shovel the snow sometimes. Anyway, and Ron was what do you do that for? Because it'll just melt in spring anyway. Because he was used to living on an army base where they actually did it for them.
Colby, I don't know if you were on here, but when Orville called Mrs. A, or was Odie that called Mrs. A and told her that Ron needed to go on a diet and that he's not to eat after 6 p.m. at night. And I don't know, Mrs. A, did you put a padlock on the fridge?
No, I never had a padlock on the fridge.
Anyways, we'd be all sitting down in the basement, and Big Ronnie would say, "Hey, Frenchie, go upstairs and make me 6 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and if anybody asks, they're for you."
Again, he would sneak out all the time and go to McDonald's, whatever, and he'd come back, and being Ron, he'd have chocolate sauce coming down his face. Ron, you're supposed to be on diet.
Or he did that, and then he was taking the laxative before the weigh-in.
I was just going to tell that story. He said to me one morning, "Mrs. A, have you got any laxative?" I said, "Sure I have, Ron. What's the matter, Ron?" "Oh, I think I need one." And then I found out his mother said, "Well, it must have been weighing the next day."
Yeah.
He was taking that.
Oh, wait a minute.
Wait a minute, we need to plug in.
We're unplugged.
Hey, Paul, you just reminded me of a story when you talk about the padlocks.
Yeah.
I remember Rita and I, one day we skipped school and got drunk at some girl's house. And I came home probably about 2 p.m, just high-eyed. And I started pawing through the fridge. And little did I know, Mrs. A kept a container of lard. And I thought it was butter. So I started smearing it on a bun. To my surprise, it was not butter. It was just lard. That serves me right on many different reasons. So actually, Mrs. A, why did you keep containers of lard in the fridge?
Gotta have lard, boy.
Well, it was probably to make you cakes, pastry the next day.
Oh.
Well, I remember when Jeff and Paul eventually used to go on road trips. I mean, I used to get a menu. Well, Jeff wanted this kind of a sandwich with whatever in them and this kind of a dessert, and everybody wanted chocolate chip cookies because the whole damn bus had chocolate chip cookies from me. And then somebody else that was with him wanted a different sandwich, so we used to have big portions, and this big cooler he used to take on when they used to go on road trips. Everybody had their own little division for what they wanted.
You're way too accommodating.
And Fred Fletch said my chocolate chip cookies were the best.
Back to Ron, I remember Tom Racine doing curfew checks while he was on duty. Do you remember that, Colby?
Yes. Wow. I remember he came and got me one time and brought me home for curfew check.
Tom was still a police officer at the time, and I think Orville had hired him part-time to do some curfew checks while he was working.
Yes, I remember he did. Yeah.
And he came knocking on our door.
Ron and Jeff.
He was looking for Jeff Murray.
Yeah. Remember they got, I remember, if I'm not mistaken, they got sick for a few days, for 3 or 4 days. Really sick, missed practice, missed everything.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, boom, the
They were
weekend
well
hit
again.
and they were ready to go. But they didn't go to practice, but they stayed out till 4 in the morning that night.
They got
I think that was the downfall really for them.
Yeah. But
We're in
this
trouble
made
for that one.
best hot toddies. Oh my God. No one really got sick there.
Yeah, I remember Tom Racine coming down round at night checking, see if you were all home.
That was one of the rules. We didn't lie. If you weren't in, you weren't in.
Yeah, but we could sneak out the basement window then. It was, we check for curfew and then sneak out.
Yeah. It's an old trick. Yeah, are they in their beds? Yeah, he's sleeping.
Hey,
Mrs.
back
Egg.
then, Bush, we could fit through the window. Now I don't know.
Mrs. A, can you remember what we used to call your granddaughter?
I know what my granddaughter used to call you. He used to call him
Monkey Man.
Monkey Man. Because he used to play, what did he used to play? Music.
Traveling Wilburys.
Oh, was that Skeeter and the Monkey Man?
You're the Monkey Man. Yeah. You with the Monkey Man.
You were the Monkey Man. She thought you were the best thing since sliced bread, truly.
But do you remember how she got her name? Remember, she came over one morning. I think it was a Saturday morning. We were all sleeping in, and she started crying. And I came down and I said, that kid just set the Guinness Book of World Records for longest cry. And she ended up being called Guinness from there on in.
I didn't remember that.
We used to call her Guinness because Catherine used to say, okay, guys, Guinness is coming over this afternoon.
That you. Well,
They
she,
could do in the background, yeah.
yeah. Well, she's got a young guy that's skating like the wind now. He's 7 years old, so he's going to be a
no
hockey
way.
player too.
Wow.
Yeah,
So how old would she be now?
13.
Wow.
Well, you guys left me in 80.
No, 90.
No,
One
90.
was the last
What
season.
was it?
93.
90.
When was yours? 93?
Around
Was the last
Mine was 89. So yeah,
89. Yeah.
We were rookies in 89. 90.
91, we were rookies.
Yes, I think as Darren and his gang left, you, Sean and Rob, you came in, and you, Ryan.
Yeah, 90-91 season.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was the year you guys came in.
Another thing, we never, like you were talking before about, did we lock the fridge? One thing with all the guys that were in the place, we never had to lock the bar or the fridge or the whatever. Like, I'm sure now and again somebody would go into the bar and have a nip or two, but, oh, sorry, I'm going around this way. But,
That's because you drank gin. If you drank beer, we would have crushed it.
No, I can't. As long as I was there, I can't remember going into the bar. I can't remember ever digging into Mrs. A's stuff because, and I like gin, so I didn't drink it. Unless you guys can remember.
No, I don't remember you guys. I don't remember you guys getting into anything really. But
Yeah,
I'm sure there was
about
some
our own.
midnight snack runs and things like that, but
Yeah.
Chip.
Chip day.
chip. Oh yeah, chips.
Chip runs?
We're responsible for your own chips, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We couldn't keep you in chips.
I remember Sean Caprice saying to me one time, "How much do you get for looking after these boys?" I couldn't tell you whatever it was. And
About
she said,
$375.
she said, "How do you feed them on that kind of money?" So I said, "Well, I do feed them," but I said I can't afford to buy them like things like chips and extra things like that. Well, if that's all they have to buy, she said, that's good. Yeah.
Kept the local convenience store in business anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
It was across the street, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a little one across the street. Yeah, right,
Really?
right in front of the drug house.
Oh yeah, up the road the other way.
Yeah, I used to
Yeah,
walk.
and then there was another one up the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Hey, does Domtar still give off that? Well, you don't have Domtar anymore.
No,
right?
No.
gone.
I
Domtar's
completely
gone.
We're a
remember
retirement
Domtar.
community now, Cornwall.
Yeah,
Every
well,
Tuesday or Thursday, the smokestacks would rip in the whole town. Very
Yeah.
distinguishable.
I'll
Yeah.
never
I completely
forget.
remember that.
I do.
oh,
too.
you should come and see Cornwall now. It's a lovely city now.
Would
They've got
I
a
even? It
beautiful
was lovely
waterfront.
when I was there.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot more. I mean, the Domtar is gone completely. It's down to the ground. There's nothing being built on the site, but it's gone. There's a brand new arena. It's a
bridge is gone.
three or four pads.
Yeah, actually, Chris, were you around, Chris, when Stephen built the arena?
Well, he didn't build it.
Well,
by
he didn't
himself.
build it, obviously.
On the last council before they got it approved. So I remember doing some work with Stephen. We were actually talking to the senators at one point.
Yeah, but well, it's called the Benson Center. It's a nice arena, busy with all the young guys in there.
Really?
Built
Is
before I left.
Cornwall Barbecue still around?
Yeah.
Cornwall Barbecue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best
Still
food chain ever. They used to cash our paychecks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
for a fee?
I don't know. For all $40 a week, I don't know.
$7.99 for a club sandwich and a Coors Light, and then we're out of there, off to Jupiter's after.
Best Jupiter's name. Best place ever.
Close game.
A lot of good memories there in Moviolas.
Yeah.
The Cornwall Barbecue sign had fine dining on it. Remember that?
Fine dining.
What was the one with fine dining on?
Just Moviolas.
Cornwall
Movie
Barbecue
owners.
sign had fine dining right underneath it.
Oh.
Hey, Chris, I got to ask you, that blue Royals jersey behind you, what's the other number beside the 3?
It's a 0. It's Ilpo's jersey. Both these
Oh,
are.
Kohanen.
This one's a
Oh,
very
that's
cool.
Which one's that?
You've still got your jacket?
You got Kohanen's jerseys. Oh, boy. I'm gonna let Ippy know.
When at one point, I think there was a bunch of them. A guy out of Toronto had a bunch, and he was selling them back to guys in Cornwall. I bought a bunch. I actually had John Slaney's at one point, and I'm kicking myself now for not buying more.
Yeah. That was probably the same guy that called me.
Was his name Frank?
I have no idea, man.
He's still probably.
I don't know.
So where's John Slaney these days?
He's in the States somewhere. He's coaching. Or actually, I think he's with Phoenix. He's one of the scouts or assistant coach or whatever.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah. He was smart. He stayed down south.
Warm.
Yeah.
Well, Darren, I never left Dayton.
Are you still there?
Still here, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were lucky. Tom, I got to play with Tom 2 years after playing junior with him in Dayton. Yeah. And I also got to play with Reeder in Raleigh later on in around 96, 97, 95, 96. Yep. So it was got to see a couple of guys that, well, Reeder I never knew, but I heard of them. But we traded stories of Mrs. A's place, and but you and I, we just every now and then we'd have a flashback and crack up laughing. Just thinking about
Arena's no longer here.
All I can remember is, boys, time to put your cold feet on the warm floor.
Oh, yeah. Remember Woody? I ain't got none. Oh,
watching Jeopardy.
Watching Jeopardy. I remember Matthew Snyder's younger brother. What was he? JP? J.A. Yep. Him laying in front of the TV watching Jeopardy, he could answer every single question.
He's a lawyer now.
He's a lawyer? Yeah, figures.
Yeah, he's a lawyer.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
In sports or just a lawyer?
I don't know. He's a lawyer in Georgia. I think.
Oh, he's down in Georgia.
Yeah. Bush, you got a story about that, don't you?
It's just funny.
No comment,
every time. Who's this? Like, who are you looking for? You know, it's like, how are we supposed to know who's on the call? We used to drive Mrs. A nuts.
Capper has the best stories about J.A.'s dad calling, is J.A. there? Yeah. Capper does the accent.
Well, nobody, right. We would always say, who's this first? Yeah, who's this?
Then his grandmama used to call from somewhere down in a nursing home down in the States, and half the time he wouldn't talk to her. He used to say, no, tell him I'm not here.
Yeah.
Mrs. A and Catherine, thank you very much for everything that you've done. It's a pleasure. I'm going to go meet with my family now. I'm at my mom's for dinner right now. So it was very, very nice to speak with you guys and to see your faces. You guys haven't changed at all, and to hear stories from everybody else. So I'm just going to be signing out now. So thank you for everything that you've done.
Good to see you, Ryan. And if we're out down your part of the country, we'll come and see you.
You make sure you call me. You got my number, right? You know how to get a hold of me.
Yeah, I know how to get a hold of you.
Yeah. Okay. Nice seeing everybody.
Thanks, Bushy.
Later, Bush.
Thank you, Ryan, for coming on.
Yeah.
Love to your dad.
Will do.
Oh, that's great.
Tim and Chris, this is the easiest interview you've ever done. It's got to be.
This was great.
You know what, Darren? I'm not arguing with you, buddy.
Haven't had to ask a question. Instant
Tim,
story.
I'm trying to think of a story from Windsor every time I stare at that jersey behind you.
Yeah?
But the best story I can only say for you, back we were playing in Windsor, was back when Bob Probert was getting into a lot of his issues back in the day.
I know this story, Tom.
Well, I don't know, but well, maybe you do. And he got banned from going to the States. So we're down in Windsor for about a week.
Yeah.
And we have, instead of using one of the rooms, we had to go across the way up in the gondola, so to speak, for our change room. Well, Bob Probert had his own little room up there too, because he was skating at the Windsor Arena.
Yeah.
And one day we're up there, the team's coming in there, and Jason Hannigan, just the way he was back in the day, he was like, really bad-mouthing Probert, what's this, calling him a pussy and all this other stuff. I was here, I could beat the crap out of him, all this stuff. And sure enough, he turns around and Probert's staring straight down at him. Good thing Bobby Babcock was there too, but Probert had a good sense of humor with it all. So,
But just to add to that story, we were there for a week before, and I think Colby might have got us tickets to a Red Wings game.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I was rooming with Paul Kane, and I don't think Orville gave us a curfew that night, so we were out on Willette Street?
Yeah.
And some van pulls up next to us, and the door opens, and there's these scantily clad women, and it said cheetahs.
Leopards. Probably leopards or cheetahs, yeah.
Cheetahs.
Or Jasons.
Yeah, do you guys want to go for a ride? So we hop in this van, Paul Kane and I and Jeff Murray, and they take us to Cheetahs. And who's sitting at the bar? Bob Probert. This is when he was suspended. So we get back to the hotel, and we had a morning skate, I think, that morning for 8 or 9. And I mean, this is before cell phones. And Kaner says to he goes, I'll call down and get a wake-up call. I'll get a wake-up call for 7, and we'll walk over to the old barn. Well, the wake-up call never came, and Odie calls the room about 30 minutes before practice, and he's like, Kaner, where are you guys? We're getting on the ice for practice. So, I mean, I was a fourth-line guy, right? I didn't play a lot. So we get down to the rink, and Kaner's like, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. It'll be all good. So we step on the ice. Orville doesn't say a thing. We just go about our business. And at the end of practice, Orville comes over and he goes, you're scratched for tomorrow night, kid.
But you had fun though, didn't you, Paul?
Yeah.
I sat up in the press box with Fred and Tom Racine at the old Windsor barn, and I kind of got to do a little bit of color with those guys, so it was fun.
Yeah. Thanks for nothing, eh, Kaner?
Threw me under the bus, and then he threw me under the bus the next night when we went to the Sioux.
Yeah.
He disguised his bed with a bunch of pillows. It looked like he was sleeping in there, and it was one of those old motor inns, so he could jump over the balcony to go meet all these girls that he knew. Because I mean, he had been in the league probably 2 or 3 years before.
5 years for Christ's sake. Yeah.
So Odie comes knocking, and I open the door a creak, and Kaner there, yeah, he's in bed there. He's asleep. It was full of pillows, right? That was rooming with Kaner.
He could drink.
Oh, he could drink. Yeah.
He many a time came to play a game, and he wasn't very straight on his feet.
Well,
When I played in Cornwall, he was actually bartending at one of the bars.
That's right.
Left it so much there he stayed.
Well, Steve Odica, that's right. Steve Odica bought a bar, and guess who was the barman?
Yeah.
Hey.
It's funny because Bushy, one of his best buddies, was Bob Probert. Bushy played with Probe in
Right.
Chicago.
Yeah.
And Bushy was one of the pallbearers at his funeral.
Oh, wow.
So of
Wow.
all people, like Bush, too bad he jumped off. Like he's got 100 stories, but Probe was at his wedding and super good dude and everything.
Yeah.
I've got 2 funny stories about Windsor. I'll tell them quick, but we actually, my first year, we actually were winning a game in Windsor. We didn't win many games my first year, but and I remember we were winning. The fans went absolutely ballistic, and they're whipping beer cans and beer bottles on the ice. Anything
doesn't surprise me.
they could get their hands on, they threw on the ice. And I was amazed at the amount of heart these people had.
Oh, it's
It
true.
was so bad. I had to back into the net just so I didn't get hit by anything. And I was like, wow, these guys are hardcore. But
Oh,
it
yeah.
was cool to see, the Spitfires. Like that was cool.
Yeah.
That night I went out with my agent. He goes, oh, I got a guy. We're going out to dinner. So I got permission by Crawford. We went out to dinner. And John Cordick shows up.
Oh,
And
wow.
we had the same agent apparently, and that was when he was on the wagon, no booze and all that, and he was a great guy, great sense of humor. But right when he dropped me off at my hotel, last thing he ever said to me was, "Hey Dykeman, don't go pulling your goalie tonight." I thought that was pretty funny. I've never heard that one before. I've heard it expressed many ways, but not like that.
It's awesome.
Yeah, Cordick he was a pretty cool dude, and from what I hear from Bushy, Probe was the best too.
Robbie was a good guy.
Yeah,
Had a heart of gold. Big tough guy, but man, when he shook your hand, you knew it too.
Yeah. Bush says nothing but the best of him.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny that
Funny story, when he passed, they were talking to Ty Domi about how many times they fought, because they were notorious. Those two would fight all the time, right? So I think Domi said something like, well, I fought him 12 times. And the guy that asked the question said, well, you didn't fight him 13? And Domi said something like, who'd be stupid enough to fight him 13 times? Back to you, Mrs. A.
Have we got anything else to tell you? I'm not quite sure what else we have to say, boys. We're just, well, I'm calling you boys, you see, that really takes me back.
we are Mrs. A's boys.
I always used to refer to you as my boys.
Yeah.
My God, but that's way, how many years ago? What year did you leave? 90 what, Rob?
Like 27 years ago, Mrs. A.
27, yeah. Yeah, been without you all this time.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, do it again though.
yeah,
30
I'd do it.
31 for
I'd do
us.
it again. I'd do it again tomorrow. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. I always give you guys the congratulations for keeping me young, because you sure did. You kept me on my toes and kept me young, and cooking and baking and working and taking care of you through the winter. And I mean, I did bitch at you now and again, but I did really enjoy it. I have to tell you.
All things considered, you had a reason.
You always used to know that shit was coming when you said, I'm serious now.
Yeah.
Before it wasn't serious. No, I'm serious.
Or Catherine, when she'd call you by both your names.
Yes, both your names.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
That was not
Darren Colbourne. What have you done? Yeah. When she called you by two names, you knew there was something going to happen.
Hey, Darren, I'm just happy to know it wasn't just me getting in trouble.
No, buddy. No, because again, my last year I was an overage, so I was doing a couple college courses or whatever, but I wasn't about to create a full schedule for myself, so I had a bit of free time. So there was a lot of extracurricular stuff. And tell you what, man, we had a great team that year, and I discussed it with Chris and Tim on the podcast that I think we could have and should have won that year, but things just didn't line up for us. Again, we had I'll never forget, we won the first two in Peterborough and then lost 4 straight. And I can't. I looked at Cerrone was on fire. Cerrone had 19 goals in the playoffs that year, and we only went 3 rounds. But him and Reg were on fire. Reg had 14, and like I said, 33 goals between those two guys there in 3 rounds of hockey is pretty incredible. But I don't know what happened. And I think Chris brought up the fact that Reg got hurt at some point. He either got hit or somehow injured himself, and he was kind of our leader, I guess. But he somewhat wasn't himself after that. But yeah, we lost 4 straight. I could never ever get over that we won the first 2, the hardest ones in Peterborough, and then shit the bed for the next 4.
I remember him getting hit, Colby, at the complex. I mean, it was like I'm sure he must have hit him either near center ice or in the neutral zone, and then he got hurt, and something just changed after.
Yep.
Who was that? A team. We could have won. I think we could have won it all.
Steve Maltese was Rob.
Yes.
Okay.
He was our captain. He was our big guy, and again, he was our leader, right?
Yeah, I heard.
I never knew why you called him Reggie.
Reg Dunlop from Slapshot.
Player coach.
Player coach. It's just that was a name that Dunk put on him. So Dunk, Craig Duncanson. He had a name for everybody. So. My
Lord, Craig Duncanson. That's a while ago.
Yeah. Well, that was when that was when I first got there. Dunk was the man. And,
he was, yeah.
Well, he must have been over age when you came down, was he?
No, it was in his last year. Yeah, because he had just gotten drafted in the first round. But he, I tell you, he ran the show, and super tough guy and a great player. But you guys had some. Again, I can remember sitting down and talking to you two about the players that were there, and I can remember when I first arrived. The boys all went on a big, they had a game of war up in some field somewhere, and they all dressed up in camo, and they had these, I don't know if they had real guns or fake guns or whatever it was, and I had just showed up, and it was like, what am I coming into here? Like, these guys were partying, and I mean, they were having a fake war up in the woods, and the cops got called, and they were brought in, and several guys were taken to the tank and all this kind of stuff, so like, I'm surprised someone ever got shot. But, I think,
yeah, we wouldn't have done these days.
Yeah, damn right.
Yeah.
But again, that year, my last year was my memory, the favorite season, because when you have a good team and you have a good group of guys, it was like a family, and that's what it felt like to me. And it's just, again, in the end, it's not all about winning, and it's not all about being totally successful, but if I could turn the clock back now and go back to that year, that will be the one I would go back to. Of all my hockey years.
That was the very last year you were here with Darren?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Because I remember you coming back from training camp from the Red Wings, and you came back and you just walked in the door and like, where's my bed kind of thing. I don't think anybody, I don't ever remember being called to say, well, Darren's coming back.
No.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. I said, I'm not going anywhere else. So I was the last guy cut from Adirondack. And I said, well, at least I know where I'm going. And when I got sent back, it was a choice, because they had to make a choice between myself and Bisson and Babcock. And they ended up, thank God, they ended up keeping me, and they moved on Steve Bisson, who was a great player, a great defenseman.
Steve Bisson,
great offensive defenseman, and I think they just wanted to keep me as the scorer, and I think it was Babcock as the tough guy. And but thank God, because I can't imagine playing anywhere else. But I always said that was my favorite year of hockey ever. It was just something that I'll always remember, and everything just seemed to line up. Now, like I said, it's not all about winning, but it just felt right. That whole.
But that wasn't the year you got your 6 goals.
No, the year before I got all that shit. But that was that was the meal. That was all that. That was the Awesome's ham stuff. That was.
Yeah.
And they still call it Awesome Ham stuff today.
Yeah.
Catherine looked through the book for something different to serve you, because we always served you pasta before the game.
Yeah.
And Catherine, she said, I found this new recipe. We'll make these guys, and we called it the Awesome Ham stuff.
Big dish full.
A big dish, big dish full. You all sat down to it, and he scored 6 goals.
Yeah, and then we had to have it for about the next 6 games.
That's what I said. The boys are like, oh, Jesus, not this again.
Yeah, because it was like, I'm going to score those 6 goals. No, never did.
It never worked.
So after a while,
I don't think I ever did in fucking beer league after that either, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, we had some ham stuff.
Yeah, and then I remember the time the news people came from Newfoundland to do a profile on you, on the Newfoundland News or whatever.
How hard up were they for a special? Holy
I remember them setting you out in the front room there, and you're ensconced by the fireplace in my red velvet armchair there. Yeah. And then they came out and they said, "Will you take this clock out because it's ticking? I can hear it on the video we're making. My old clock ticking."
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they invaded your house for a couple of days. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So much. This is awesome, guys. Wondering maybe if we could go around the room and just everybody say some kind of closing thoughts, and we'll leave Mrs. A to kind of close it off at the very, very end. I think we could go on forever, but maybe Colby, do you want to lead us off and just say some closing comments?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, Chris, thank you, number one, for starting all of this, because it never would have happened. But Mrs. A and Catherine, thank you so much. Like I said, it's shame on me, number one, and I don't know if other guys have kept in contact with you or Catherine or even you guys like Paul and Tom. I don't know if it's this COVID-19 or the things that are going on in the world right now, but it just makes us push back and look at better times. And like I just said, 1989 and those days prior, those are my greatest memories and my fondest memories of you guys. And just looking at your faces now, it just takes me back to when I was a young, almost vibrant individual. And but again, I hope at some point in the near future we can meet up and have a reunion. I think it would be awesome. Seeing as we got this together, I think we can easily get the gang back together somewhere and do a wing night or whatever it takes to meet up. But to both of you, thank you so much for everything you've done. You formed a lot of us, and especially myself, into the men we are today, and I just appreciate everything you did. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Darren. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah.
I'll go next.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Okay, sorry, just because I wanted to pick up right where we said, when Darren said about having a different place to live at that time, and then he moved to Mrs. A's. Let's face it, Mrs. A, that we're all away from home for the first time really in our life, and it was a great transition there. I'm sure none of us would be the people we are today without having been there with Mrs. A. Some of us may not have even played anymore. I know I lived there for 2, maybe 3 years, and I moved on, and the experience was not the same. So, like I said, it really formed a lot of who we are today. And like I said, I haven't kept in touch. I think life goes on, but we've moved on. But I've always wondered whatever happened to. So having this today is fantastic. And like Darren said, I actually a couple of weeks ago, from another team that I played, we went in the ECHL. We went to the semifinals, and a bunch of us are on a texting chat right now for the last month that everyone's been doing it. So it's great to look back on these times, and I'd love to see a reunion happen from them too. So
yeah,
Mrs. A, Kathy, Darren, Paul, Rob, everybody there. It's just. Like I said, I miss all those days. I miss our coffees after dinner and playing cribbage and stuff. So
cribbage, yeah, you taught them how to play cribbage.
Yeah, I remember we played cribbage for hours on end. You could always count so much faster than I could.
Yeah, well, we played so much, you could just look at the cards and boom, you already know what it adds up to.
That's right. You count them in your sleep.
That's right.
I remember when you were home for that 6 weeks when you had your appendix done. And we played cards. We played, I don't know how many hours of crib at that time. It was great.
Yeah, I know. Those were the days for sure.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to thank Chris and Tim for doing this. Like I said, I saw the podcast a couple of weeks with Colby and Chris and Tim, and it just brought back so many memories. Listen to Darren telling about all the old stories from Cornwall and Mrs. A and Catherine's house, and all the guys that we lived with, and I wasn't far down the road. Like I was from Ottawa, so I was only an hour and a little bit from home. But there were times when I could have gone home on the weekend, but I just didn't want to go home because I just wanted to stay with the guys and enjoy, you know, our time off together and playing cards and hanging out. And even to this day, I try to tell my little guy he's 11 now and he's minor peewee, you know, just the stories of Cornwall and what we went through and the memories. And I took him back to the complex about maybe 2 summers ago, just to walk him through there and to show him all the pictures that were up in the showcase, and then where the dressing room was. And then we drove by 1210 Montreal Road. And I said, you know, Daddy only lived here for a year, but man, oh man, we had some fun times and some good memories. And I just want to thank Catherine and Davina for looking after us. And it was like our home away from home. And I'm still fortunate because I'm so close that I can still, every time I go to Cornwall, I just like to drive around and, you know, in front of St. Lawrence High School, or remember walking to school together, Tommy, up Lefebvre in the winter, freezing our arses off. And we always had a good lunch. Mrs. A always packed us a good lunch. But it's just so many memories. And I mean, I'm going to be 52 years old soon, and it was like yesterday. And man, if I could flick a switch and go back to, you know, eating breakfast at the Miss Cornwall restaurant and at the Brookdale Mall, hoping that I was going to make the team, like I would do it in a heartbeat, because it's probably the best year of my whole life, hockey, whatever. So again, just thank you guys for everything. And I think we should try to plan a reunion. You know, maybe we could do it in Cornwall. And
that would be fantastic.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
So thank you again.
When you get more than 10 people together.
Yeah.
That would be nice. It was fun having you guys. It was a reason to get out in the winter and enjoy we enjoyed the games as much as having you guys, but it was, you know, it kept you going during the winter. It was good entertainment, and always sorry to see it go. And you guys, and it was, like I said, it was part of our lives for 10 years. So it was some good memories.
Yeah, great memories. I often sit and wonder where you all are, where Big Mike Ware is, and all those kind of things.
I know.
And it would be just lovely to know where half of you ended up.
Yeah.
Because
No, again, those are guys, especially the guys that you live with. You'd like to know if they're doing okay, at number one especially, and if everybody's, you know, again, everybody runs into health stuff and all that, but
That's right.
It's nice to see, especially you two, still looking great. You look fabulous. You do. Hey?
Mrs. A, I sent you a Facebook request.
You did?
I sent you a Facebook request. I'm not sure if you got it.
Go on Facebook and find it then, my Paul. I'm not the best tech person in the world, but I can do a little bit of it.
She's got an iPad, which she swears at.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Well, I'm getting a little long in the tooth, you know, for all this techie stuff. You probably added up as to how old I am, so I won't have to tell you.
She's a great grandmother times 5.
So that's great, guys, and I'd love to see you, and I'd love to see any of the guys that were all here, and Fred Fletch and all. I do see Tom Racine now and again, but all the guys that brought back all those good memories. Thoroughly enjoyed every minute of you.
Well, I'll tell you what, my company just got gobbled up by Atlantic, just got gobbled up by Ontario. So I'm going to be coming that way at some point within the next 6 to 8 months. So I'd love to see everyone. So I don't know. Let's try and keep this tight and just see what if we can all congregate in one spot. I know, Tommy, it might be a tough one for you to get up and across the border, but we're not letting any.
When he comes across.
Hey, we're not letting any of you friggers in. Jesus, down there. Feels like we're still sitting around the table, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Keep your damn germs to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris, for doing this. This is just absolutely fantastic. Just thoroughly stirred up all the old memories again.
I know. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll never get her to bed tonight. She won't sleep.
Before we sign off,
I'm not quite at the stage. I have to be put to bed.
As you can see, guys, I think we were all the ones that didn't want to be part of these stories 30 years later.
Now,
talking about the stuff that we did. We talked about what everyone else was
yeah. So now Davina's going to look to Catherine when this is over and say, "God damn it! Now I got to write another book."
Write a book. Yeah.
So, Chris, will there be a way to watch this again? Like, will this be saved in the archives if we ever want to go back and look at it, or?
Absolutely. We'll post it up in the morning on the site, hometownhockey.ca, and it'll be there forever, really. And I know some of the first couple podcasts that we've done, we did a couple with the Spits with Ryan Donnelly to start. We did one with Todd Warner, and obviously the Colby one. This is number 4. So all of those are still up on the site, and obviously this will be up in the morning. I'll send a link out to the group when we get going. So what I'll do is I'm gonna shut it down, and we can stick around and chat a little bit further. But I do want to say thank you to a lot of players. Obviously, the 5 former players. Colby and I had kind of reconnected through Twitter, but based on the Colby interview, it reconnected me to Paul, and then I think Reno Rushford helped me connect out to Tom, and Paul, you helped me find a few others. Ryan was literally just a cold call through a Google search, and Rob Dykeman, I originally spoke to some Rob Dykeman in Calgary who wasn't the right one. Found it out, and obviously Mrs. A, you were the star of the show, and we certainly appreciate you taking the time to join us. So we're going to sign off, but just stick around if you guys want to continue to chat. Thanks so much.
Can I just ask one question? Sure. I'm sorry, I don't know who Tim Cornett is.
I'm the backup goalie that nobody knew. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Mrs. A. I'm Chris's friend from Windsor.
Oh, okay. I just thought you were maybe one of the old boys that I didn't know.
No. Remember me.
He's a good host.
There we go. Great.